With Expo SDK 53, there is now a brand new way of managing auth flows in your Expo Router project. It's called protected routes. Don't worry, your existing redirect-based flows are still completely valid, but in this video, we'll see how to achieve the same kind of UX with the new protected routes. Here we have a commonly used folder structure with a tabs folder and a sign-in screen. We want unauthenticated users to go to the sign-in screen and logged-in users to see the tabs layout. All we need to do here is to wrap both of these screens in a stack.protected. This component takes a guard prop so that when guard is true, the screens in this stack may be accessed, and if false, they cannot. We're going to begin with my little Expo starter project like we did previously. Since last time, I have upgraded it to SDK 53. Not a lot of changes, but we are able to remove the forward ref from our button thanks to React 19 because ref is now a prop. And I've migrated ESLint to use the new flat config format. To create a new project with this template, we can run the create expo app command passing in this repo as the template. So I'm going to create a new project using bun using this template. And npx expo start to open this in Expo Go. I want my app to have a 2-tab layout when logged in. So let's create a tabs grouping folder. We'll move the index screen in there and change the text to say home screen. We'll duplicate this screen to add a settings screen. And we'll need a layout file here that returns a tabs navigator. Our tabs are already in the right order, but I'll list them here anyway for completeness. Now in the app directory, let's add a sign-in screen. So in the root layout, we now have a stack with 2 screens. Tabs, our future logged in view, and sign-in, a screen for users who haven't yet been authenticated. Now I want a flow in which logged-in users will see the app with the tabs layout, and logged-out users only see the sign-in page. By default, this would never happen, since on launch, Router will try to open the index route, which is part of the tabs layout. Previously to SDK 53, you could only achieve this with redirects, but now we have protected routes. With protected routes, we basically create guards around groups of screens with a condition, and the screens can only be accessed when the condition is true. Let's add a stack.protected component around the tabs and another one around the sign-in screen. This component has a guard prop. When guard is true, then the screen can be accessed. So if we set the tabs guard to false and the sign-in one to true and refresh, we are taken to the sign-in page, and we in fact cannot go into any of the screens in the tabs, even if we try to navigate directly. Conversely, if we set sign-in to false and tabs to true, we are taken to the logged-in view. Therefore, I can pull this out to a constant. So I'll create an isLoggedIn constant and set it to false, and we can use this constant as the prop for the guard. When the screen that Router tries to load by default is guarded, in this case the index routes in our tabs layout, when this is guarded, then Router will open the next available unguarded route. Let's add another screen here for create account. And let's list it here under the protected routes above the sign-in screen. Now when I refresh, Router will of course try to open the index route, but because it's guarded, it will open the first available unguarded route, which in this case will be create account. Now if you always want to open sign-in first, you could simply list it first. An alternative would be to use a redirect, So in the Create Account screen, we could check whether the user needs to create an account, and if they don't, just redirect to sign in. Or of course, we could use the protected routes. So we create the should create account constant here and add a protected route group around create account. Then we only allow the user to see create account when should create account is true, and conversely disallow them to see sign in if they need to create an account. Protected routes can actually also be nested. So we can move the create account in with the sign in, and in this flow, both sign in and create account are available if the user is not logged in, but create account is only available if the user needs to create an account. Another handy thing about protected routes is that we no longer have to mess around with grouping folders just to have logged in only modals. So let's add another screen here called modal, and I'll add a button that opens this modal from the sign-in screen and from the index screen. Now, if we put the modal here, outside of all the guards, then I can navigate to it from the logged out view as well as the logged in view. But if I move it here into the logged out guard, then I can open the modal in the logged out view, but not in the logged in view. And when I move it to the group with the logged in guard, then I can open it from the tabs layout, but not from the sign-in screen. So this is how you can create a modal which only logged in users can view using protected routes. Now let's persist this all state so it sticks around across app launches. In the last video, I used React Context and async storage for this. So let's do something different here and use Zustand, which is a nice minimal state management solution, and Expo Secure Store, which is a library for encrypted device storage. To install these, we'll do npx expo install Zustand and Expo Secure Store. Now in utils, I'll create a file called auth store, and this will be our app's auth state in Zustand. In our auth storage, we want to store a boolean for whether the user is logged in and whether they should create an account. We also want to add functions to be able to toggle these from within our application. In Zustand, this is exported as a hook, so we will export used auth store, and we'll import create from Zustand, which takes in an arrow function that returns an object with each of the keys in our state, plus the functions to edit it. So the default value for is logged in will be false, should create account will be false. The login function sets the logged in state to true, and the logout function sets it to false. Now we have an in-memory state management system, but it's not actually saved to the device storage. For this, we want to use the persist and create JSON storage middleware. And we'll import get, set, and delete item from Expo Secure Store. And now we need to wrap our auth store in a persister. The first argument into the persister is our auth store, and the second argument is where we want to store it. So the name will be auth store, which is the key against it will be stored. And for the storage, let's create a custom JSON storage. So you can actually define how the data is stored and retrieved. All you need to implement is 3 functions: set item, get item, and remove item. In our case, we will use the functions from Expo Secure Store. Now let's add a button to the sign-in page, which when on pressed will call the login function from our auth store. And on the settings page for the logged in view, let's add a button to log the user out. And finally, on the root layout, we can delete the hard-coded constants and read the is logged in and should create account booleans directly from the auth store. Now, when we first open our app, we'll need to log in. After we log in, this value is persisted, so at the next launch, we will still be logged in. And after logging out and refreshing, we stay logged out. Let's also add an onboarding flow into this app. In our auth state, let's add a value for has completed onboarding and set it to false by default. Let's also add functions for complete onboarding and reset onboarding. Complete onboarding will set has completed onboarding to true. And reset onboarding, which you might want to have for debugging purposes, will set has completed onboarding back to false. Let's make this a multi-step flow. So I'll add a folder here for onboarding with two screens. The first screen will be the onboarding index screen, so let's call it the first screen. And it will have a button which will navigate to the onboarding/final screen. And the second screen will have a button for complete onboarding. So when this button is pressed, we will call the complete onboarding function from our auth store, which will set it to true. And finally, let's add a layout file here in the onboarding folder, and this will return a stack navigator, which will make this whole onboarding flow into a stack. Now let's open the root layout and add the onboarding screen. We want to wrap this in another protected stack and show it only if the user hasn't completed onboarding. Conversely, we want to only show the sign-in screens when the user has completed onboarding. Now when I reload my app, I get taken to the onboarding screen, which is this one. And if I go to the final screen, but I don't complete onboarding and refresh, I get taken back to the beginning of onboarding. But if I go to this final screen and complete onboarding, then I get taken to the sign-in screen. Now when I refresh, I get taken directly to the sign-in screen because I've completed onboarding. We can actually also use protected routes to create conditionally rendered bottom tabs. Let's create another screen here in our tabs layout for our VIP users. And let's make it the middle tab here. Now we can wrap this VIP screen in a tabs.protected. And when the guard for this is false, the screen is not shown. And when the guard is true, the bottom tab is shown and can be navigated to. Let's hook this up in our auth state as well. In my Zustand store, I'll add a isVIP boolean and a login as VIP function. Now isVIP will default to false and login as VIP will set it to true. And let's set it back to false when we log out. In the sign-in screen, let's add a second button for login as a VIP. And this will call the login as VIP function. And in my tabs layout, I'll replace the hard-coded guard value with the isVIP boolean from the auth store. So now, when I sign out and sign in as a regular user, I only see two bottom tabs. But when I sign out again and sign in as a VIP, I see my special VIP-only tab. I really hope you enjoyed this lesson on protected routes. See you next time!